You see here, kid? You gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes after or what came before. You just gotta bend your knees, take a deep breath, and jump. And you might think, what if I fall? Well, what if you don't? What if you fly?
Switching command to internal.
From the Collaborative Studios, Open the Eye, where metaphysical, paranormal, and the unexplained meet. Open the Eye with Tanya Tyler.
In the United States, around 2023 statistics show 65.1 million households own at least one dog. This means that roughly 40 to 45% of U.S. households have a dog. Dog ownership has been steadily driven up by certain situations like emotional companionship, exercise benefits. So dogs have been more than just Fido playing fetch. They've been recognized as companions with health benefits, life-saving roles for centuries. St. Bernard dogs became famous for rescuing travelers trapped in the snow of the Alps. 17th century. In the 19th century, Florence Nightingale, a pioneer of modern nursing, noted that small pets reduce anxiety and improve the mental state of patients in the hospitals. Guide dogs for the blind, after World War I, programs started to train and assist for wounded soldiers that had lost their eyesight. In Germany, 1920, guide dogs started. Medical alert dogs in the 20th century started training for specific medical conditions like diabetes, seizures, and helping their owners with potential emergencies. Dogs in mental health, the use of dogs as emotional support animals has been widely known for helping individuals cope with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. That leads me to my next guest. I am so excited. He is alive today because of his furry friend named Booster, who's no longer with us in the physical form. He saved his life not just once, but twice. I want to welcome Davis Hawn. Davis, start from the beginning, and thank you for being here.
I am just so grateful to be in Wimberley, Texas. What a magical little town this is. I can't wait to venture through again. Let me just say that, to add to what you've just said, that Americans spend a lot of money on their pets. In 2023, Americans spent $147 billion on their pets. So I also would like to say that the more we complicate our world, the more we turn to dogs for a solution. From COVID detection dogs in the airport when the epidemic ran, today more veterans commit suicide than battle. 22 out of 24 hours, a veteran is taking their own life. At Bergen University of Canine Studies, Bergen College, my alma mater, they started a program, Paws for Purple Hearts. And they had veterans with PTSD train the veterans that may have a TBI, traumatic brain injury. What they found is by working with those dogs, the ramifications of PTSD came down and the suicide rate plummeted. That's the magic of the dog. And I will tell you that a lot of families, when a person has a service dog, there's a little, I don't know how to say it, jilted feeling sometimes or jealousy because the disabled person obtains independence and is no longer dependent upon the spouse or the family member to the same degree. And it's quite interesting to watch the transformation when someone who is virtually in some ways helpless restores their sense of ability maybe to get around or to what have you, due to the independence created by the presence of the dog. The canine-human bond is amazingly strong and valued.
Your story is so impressive, and I'm so grateful that you're on our show. So let's start with, how did you connect up with this dog?
I spent 2 decades of my life in codependent relationships, 2 specifically. The first was, unbeknownst to me, an alcoholic, and the second ended up being introduced to crack cocaine. And I'm talking about 10 years with one trying to help and 10 years with the other. I wasted 20 years of my life. They say that if your parents are an addict, alcoholic addict, that you grow up subconsciously looking to put someone in your life because you have a master's degree in rescuing the wounded bird. And I learned that in the Al-Anon program. I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But when I got honest with myself in my life, I realized that's exactly what happened. I was going to rescue that wounded bird. And I'm talking about someone who ended up drinking 14 40-ounce bottles of malt liquor a day. I'm talking about someone later who ended up eating out of dumpsters on crack, and you help them, they get their life together, and what do? They go back and eat out of the next dumpster, trade their shoes for a rock of crack cocaine. How can you not feel sorry for such a person, especially, I guess, when God was good enough to give you the life? But I will tell you that my life spiraled down. They say that the drug addict, the alcoholic, alcohol is just a drug you drink. They have the drugs to numb the pain. You don't have that. You take it on the chin. You're the one that calls it, well, they can't come to work today because when the hand shakes so much they can't put it in the pocket, you end up buying the alcohol to prevent the seizure. I lived in fear of repercussion, and I gained a sense of appreciation for, let's just say, battered women, but from a male perspective. More battered women more often die from leaving the abuser than from staying in the abusive relationship. Think about that for a while. It's better to take a few hammer hits to the head than to leave and try to find peace and tranquility. That's kind of what happened to me. I was thinking about every word before I uttered it. I mean, there was one night that the alcoholic wanted money and I didn't have it. But went out of control, broke windows in the home. I have a raised home. I slept under my home that night, getting eaten by mosquitoes. If I had screamed out, it would have revealed my whereabouts. It was horrible. And in the morning, I scrambled out from under the home. A friend came to get me. The alcoholic never even remember what happened. It's incredibly difficult to even envision such a thing. One day, I decided, the second addict, I was going to buy a puppy. Maybe Mother Nature could fix the addict. So I went and we got this beautiful yellow lab puppy. I gave it to the addict in my life, and it worked for about 2 weeks. But then the puppy ended up getting kicked across the room, thrown around, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I finally gave up, and I bought a camper. I went out west because I learned that the puppy was destined to be traded to a crack dealer for rocks of crack cocaine. I couldn't let that happen to that innocent soul. It's still painful to this day. So I bought a camper and I went out west. I left my family, my friends, my business behind. And I didn't like that puppy. I couldn't get a motel room because I had a damn dog. People came up to me, Mister, what a cute puppy, man. Pet the puppy. I'm like, get out of my face. That puppy was always joyous, and I was always miserable. And one day, I was in a campground in Ajo, Arizona, near the Mexican border. The camper fell on my leg, and I couldn't bend it. I had a blood clot, and I shooed the puppy away with my socked foot. I took a shower with my sock on. And you know what he did? He grabbed my sock, and he pulled it off my foot playing tug-of-war. Give me my sock. Later in the day, he's chewing a shoe. Stop that. Give me my damn shoe. And you know what he did? He brought me my shoe. That night, I gave up. I had a gallon of vodka on the bed, and I did a good job of finishing off that. Well, I won't say finishing, but I did a lot of drinking. I had a knife, and I almost did the unthinkable. In the morning, I awoke to knocking at the camper door. Children, Mister, we have a dog. Can our dog play with your dog? Yeah, take the darn dog. The dog screamed in pain 15 minutes later. I thought he'd been hit by a car because everything in life was bad. Well, the dog hit his paw playing with the other dogs. He was in pain. He was in physical pain. I was in psychological pain. Now we were as one. I had, as I call it, a Helen Keller-like epiphany, a breakthrough moment. The children are crying, Mister, he's okay. The dog's crying. And I started crying uncontrollably. And I'm talking sobbing. The dam broke. I slept with that puppy in my hand, my arms in the camper bed for 3 days. When I got up, I looked into his eyes, as I say, the window to the soul, and I said, I'm going to always take one day to share you with the world. But we needed an education to do that. So I read about dogs that help people, service dogs. So I went out west, the Assistance Dog Institute, founded by Dr. Bonnie Bergen, who founded the service dog concept. And we learned to train the dog, and then we became the instructor that trained the disabled that came to get the dog. So you start off as a student for 3 weeks, and then you morph into an instructor. How fascinating. Bonnie later founded a college, Bergen University of Canine Studies, now Bucks Bergen College of Canine Studies. And people come from all over the world to teach and learn about dogs and make the world a better place in which to live. And may I say, can you imagine not retiring in your 60s, buying a motorhome, or traveling the world? Who in their right mind would take on the U.S. government to accredit a college, especially a dog college? Waterproof, safe, you need physical books, not electronic, in the library. It was crazy, but you know what? She got it fully accredited. Kudos to Bonnie. What an amazing lady. That education, people ridiculed me, my own family. You spend how much to get a master's degree in canine life sciences? Today, if you Google me, you'll get about 10 pages, maybe 5 or 10 on the internet all over the world. We actually even went into Havana, Cuba. It was my master's thesis. Project Fidelity, to project fidelity between the United States and Cuba. Maybe a dog could do what humans fail to do. I mean, after all, my dog changed my life dramatically and kept introducing me to people successfully. Well, I have to tell you, within weeks, we were on live television in Cuba, live radio, met the leader of the blind, the disabled, the animal and plant welfare. It was quite amazing. It was amazing. That education changed my life.
I want to just go back a little bit. Just being in that situation of where you were when you first got the dog is crazy impressive, first of all, because most people, as you said, don't get out of that situation. And you had 20 years.
10 years in one relationship, 10 years in the other.
Yeah. So it really is impressive, first of all, that you have come this far. Your connection with the dog in the beginning wasn't very, very strong because you had other things. You were full. That's where we are with humans. We get full and we don't have time for anything else until we break.
And it wasn't a relationship. I resented the damn puppy.
Yeah. I mean, and just seeing that piece in my mind, how many times that as humans, as we go through that process and we don't break, we just try to hold that dam together. You finally broke and it just released.
There was nothing left. And in Al-Anon, there's this saying, you're only as sick as the secrets you keep. It's not easy talking about embarrassing details about your life or intimate details. However, my hope would be to pay it forward to where if it could just change one life out there, then that's another kudo, another feather in the cap of my dog Booster. You see, it's not about me. It's about the dog.
There's so much love that comes from that dog. Dogs are unconditional love. They are literally unconditional love.
Children that have been abused often don't take time or are afraid to share what's happened to them. And often they will tell the dog or the cow or the horse about the things that the person did to them. They will tell an animal. They won't tell a human because it's the human that hurt them. So like we visited a place, Grandma's house I think it was in Arkansas, Harrison, and they had anatomically correct dolls and all that. And I told them that. They ended up getting a facility dog so that the kids that came in that wouldn't talk to the humans ended up talking to the dog. And it's very powerful. There's a trust there.
That's amazing. I want to go back. So as you're breaking down, it's really that crossroads where your heart chakra is open. Your heart becomes full again with love. How long was that time frame for you? I don't want to say get clean, but I guess so you're more conscious and more aware and saying, I'm not doing the things I do anymore.
I'm still going through that. I don't know that will ever end. It's checkpoint, checkpoint, checkpoint. And I still have dogs in my life.
We have a dog in the studio right now, which is amazing.
Yeah. He's quite a story there too. Kind of choose my friends and my humans more carefully. My point being that I think I would more often gravitate to an animal than a human. So I pick my friends, and when I realize I'm feeling sorry for the human, I now step back and say I can't afford to do that because of my own programming to rescue the wounded bird. So I learned to put the focus on myself. And I learned that from the Al-Anon program. Put the focus on yourself. And it's hard for me. You know, I had an alcoholic father. I would raise his pants. I'd battle his doctor and threaten to turn him in to the American Medical Association if he wrote another prescription for 100 Valium, knowing my dad was an alcoholic. That's ingrained in who I am. So I have to be very conscious of my tendencies or inclinations. So that metamorphosis was very small and very gradual, and it's still going on to this day, but to a much lesser extent because of the dogs in my life.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how you said that you have to pick your friends and you have to pick the situation? It's a process because as we become conscious, it is not a degree that we get like a master's degree. And now we're good for, you're good for that. You're good for that subject. It is a process constantly for cleaning up some of our garbage in those checkpoints, like you said. I love that analogy. Thank you for sharing that. As you're continuing through your journey, what made you decide to get that master's degree? What made you decide to do all that? Like,
when I went to the ADI training program, which Bonnie has run for 25 years, that was the catalyst for change. When everything, by the way, that it's taught, especially at the college, is in a human canine context. For example, Bonnie would bring child psychologists in that work with 3-year-old children. Bonnie would say, the dog has a brain capacity equal to a 2.5 to 3-year-old human. He's told you how he works with 3-year-old children. I just told you that the brain capacity of the dog is the equivalent. So take what he's told you, work with the dogs, and explain it, and turn it in the morning. It was amazing. And when we graduated the dogs, there was a veteran who came up on stage. This is still so emotional, damn it. And you have puppy raisers that raise a puppy to the age of 1 year. And they socialize the puppy. You bring them around baseball caps and sunglasses and beards, all the things that might become a trigger unless the dog is accustomed to it. And they socialize, bring the puppies around other dogs and cats. And it's quite a loving thing, but they got to give up the dog at age 1. That's incredible. But there was a war veteran who came up on stage, and Bonnie called this young little girl up on the stage with the 1-year-old dog with the leash in her hand. And she looked at that veteran. Missy is a great dog. I love Missy. She's so special. But now Missy is yours. And she pressed that leash into the hand of that war veteran. And he broke down on stage. I'm breaking down now, right? It's just incredibly powerful. And when I saw that, I just knew that was the medicine for me. And, God, I'm so embarrassed. Anyway, that transformed my life. And either people get it or they don't get it. And I don't care if they don't get it because it's important to me to thine own self be true. So it became a mission in my life to try the best that I can to try to share the power of the canine-human bond, and especially to help the disabled. And I traveled the world. I visited kids in orphanages in Thailand. I went through Katrina. Bangkok was underwater one day. I jumped on a plane with my dog Booster, not knowing what was going on. We got invited to orphanages. In one orphanage, the children were maybe a little more special than others. They all had HIV, and they hugged my dog. I got home, and the orphanage sent me drawings the Thai children made. We love your dog, Booster. I bust out in tears at the post office. We visited children with cancer in Mexico. One little boy, his mom was talking in the back of the room. It was a foundation for disabled and abused children. Senor, my son would like to pet your dog. Great. Her son was about 6 or 7 years old. He was blind. And he reached out to pet the dog, but he pulled his hand back. Imagine, close your eyes right now and imagine there could be a vicious dog, and they train dogs to fight in many countries, including our own. So the boy bravely reached out again, and he pulled his hand back. Finally, he reached out a third time, and Booster raised his head to connect with that dog, with that boy's hand. It was a powerful connection. The boy learned to trust. And of course, then there was another boy. The mom said, my son would like to pet your dog too. Great. Booster, down please. He laid down. That boy squeezed Booster like he was a piñata. Booster had had a cancer. He had an eye removed, his right eye specifically. The mom leaned over to me, Senor, my son has just lost the eyesight in his right eye, just like your dog. He's bonding with your dog. Oh my God, it was all I could do to maintain my emotions. I didn't want to cry in front of the kids thinking they might think that I pity them. That's the last thing that I want to do. And I want to tell you, the bus came to pick up the kids, and they left. And one of the ladies graciously said, Senor, please, have some punch, have some chips. So I reached behind me nonchalantly, and I grabbed a potato chip, brought it to my mouth, and oh, did that damn break. I was squalling. Those ladies probably thought I had ingested drugs, and they hit the mark. But you see, the potato chip was in the shape of a human heart. And when they saw that, they started crying too. It was like God looked down and said, you know, man, you're on the right track. And when I wrote my book, I think one of the most beautiful photos was of that potato chip.
Oh, my heart. Oh, my heart is just, you are just amazing. We are right now talking to Davis Hawn.
Author, international speaker, and international service dog advocate.
I want to talk about, we know how the first time felt like you were going to take your life and how that was going to be. That was the first time that Booster, your dog at that moment, connected to you and you felt that will to live and you felt that will to go on. I want to talk about the second time that happened, and we'll be right back. We're going to take a quick little break for our sponsors, and we're coming back talking to Davis Hawn and talking to him about his dogs and cloning and your book. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Davis Hawn, and I'm an international service dog advocate, you could say, and international speaker, and I've written a book, so now I'm an author. My Booster.
We are back. Davis Hawn, we're so grateful that he is here sharing his love, sharing his story. We talked a little bit about your first time that you might have left this planet. Let's talk about the second time, what that looked like.
Whew. Miracle after miracle. I had a very dear friend of mine, Peggy, who was a breast cancer survivor. However, she redeveloped breast cancer. But we were going to go on a cruise together. Booster loved to go on cruises. And she had her dog, Tara. We were in Florida, and in the plane on the way to going to the cruise, I noticed a bump on Booster's head. I never saw it before. Well, when I happened to be seated, we were going to a veterinarian conference where vets go to get their continuing medical education credits. I would go too. And the guy sitting next to me was a veterinarian at the luggage belt, which I never checked luggage. But this fateful day I had, the veterinarian was at the luggage belt, and he said, may I examine your dog? Sure. And he smelled his ears, his throat, and he said, you better get this checked out. So he sent me to a place, Maitland Veterinary Clinic. Booster was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma. A tumor had burst through his skull cap, I say like a water balloon popping through a saltine cracker. It ate the skull. He had 2 weeks to live. I was ready to put him down, and then my phone went off, and it was a message from a friend in Cuba, fight for your dog. This is Rodrigo. We're fighters, Dave. Stop. Don't give him the needle. We got on a plane. I went back home to Mississippi. I took my Bergen University college skills acquired at age 52, researched squamous cell carcinoma. I sent Booster's MRI out to 10 different research centers. I get a call one day. Hello, this is Dr. Elizabeth Pluhar with the University of Minnesota. We are working in a brain laboratory, and we'd like to take a piece of your dog Booster's tumor and make a vaccine to fight it. We've never worked with squamous cell, but we'd like to give it a shot, but I can't do it for a couple weeks. Oh my gosh, Dr. Pluhar, he will be dead in 2 weeks. Well, at that point, again, my Bucks training kicked in. Listen, Dr. Plewar, I think you have to have live cells to make that vaccine, correct? Once they're radiated, they're no longer viable. She said, yes, that is correct. Well, look, I can touch that tumor on that dog's head. Could we excise a piece and ship it to you to where you could try to develop the vaccine? Yes, Mr. Hawn, I think that would work. I called Maitland Veterinary Clinic in Florida. The radiologist said, whatever you're going to do, you better do it in a hurry. And I happen to be, coincidentally, board certified in surgery, so I can get a piece of that tumor prior to radiation. Great. We got back on a plane, flew to Florida. That's exactly what happened. A few weeks later, Booster, I moved to Florida for 2 months for my dog. He got radiation therapy, shrank the tumor. He was no longer screaming in pain when he opened his mouth. I got a call. This is Dr. Plewar. The cells grew like gangbusters. We made the vaccine. It'll be 6 shots, 1 every 2 weeks. Well, in addition to that, he got the radiation therapy, and a noted veterinary neurosurgeon from London, happened to be at the University of Florida. He opened up Booster's skull, scooped out as much of the tumor as he could, and he said, your dog may have 6 months, maybe a year to live. Well, Booster went into full remission, and I was later told that because of the success with my Booster and other dogs, they got federal permission to try their technology on humans, and it morphed into what is today called immunotherapy.
Oh, wow.
And let me add something here maybe, or you can. So anyway, jump forward 10 years, and I come back from Asia, and then I'm told I have 48 hours to live. I was in writhing pain. I had tumors throughout my body, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and let's say associated with a popular weed killer sold in the United States, not permitted to be allowed in most other countries in the world because they don't focus on stockholder profits maybe, but I'll leave that at that. They said if you want to fight it, it's going to be 5 bags of chemo every day for virtually a week. You check out for a week, your immune system goes down, you can die of sepsis at any point, it comes back up, you come back in, we'll hit you for another week. Anyway, I was told it would be 6 weeks of chemo. It was into my brain. They would have to drill a hole and put a tube through my brain to the base of my brain, cut a hole in my head and put a plastic box into my head, a port. And I would have to get 2 shots of chemo into my brain every week for 3 months, once a month thereafter to the 6-month point. And Mr. Hawn, there's a 75% chance you will succumb to sepsis and die the first week anyway. 25% chance if it doesn't happen the first week, it's going to happen the second week. Well, heck, look, I led a difficult life. The logical thing maybe would have been just to give up, but I thought about Booster. He didn't have a choice when I put him through that cancer regimen. How dare I not put myself through what I put my best friend through? You know, I've been a hypocrite at times in my life, like most of us have, but this time I couldn't do it. I said begrudgingly, all right, go for it. And they strapped tubes into me, the chemo, and tubed down my nose into my heart to see if there were any tumors there. It was just, I'll just say it was overwhelming. But look, I'm still here, right? I don't think that I would have opted for treatment if it hadn't been for my dog Booster. And one thing I want to share, about 2 or 3 years ago, I'm in a local grocery store in Mississippi, a lady staring at me. I thought maybe my zipper was down. And then she blurts out, Booster. And I'm like, what? She said, you don't remember me? No, ma'am, I don't. My husband, Dr. Drake, is the veterinarian that saved your puppy's life when he had ingested rat poison. And I remember he had 107 fever. And there was something special about that puppy, and I've just never forgotten him. I said, you have no idea what you just said. Take out your cell phone, Google Davis space Hawn space Booster. You'll get stories all over the world. He was special. But he developed cancer at age 8, and she's starting to tear up in the grocery store. Well, look, 1 in 4 dogs is going to get cancer. 1 in 2 after age 10, dog equals cancer. She said, no, you don't understand, Dave. My husband that saved your puppy's life, he's currently battling squamous cell carcinoma. And when I told her that the university got federal approval to try their technology in humans and it morphed into immunotherapy, she started crying. What's wrong now? Dave, my husband that saved your puppy's life, he just underwent immunotherapy for his squamous cells starting last month. So the veterinarian that saved the puppy's life the puppy may have grown to turn around and save the veterinarian's life. How damn special is that, right? It's all very, very overwhelming. It's almost surreal. I look back at my own life and like, huh?
Yeah. Let's go back for just a sec. When did you get sick?
Approximately 3 years ago.
Oh, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So you're in 3 years.
Uh-huh.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that I don't do the alcohol, the sugar, or all the cancer-provoking things. But, I'm 67 years of age now, and I still want to enjoy my life on life's terms. Yeah. So I still do some of the wrong things because, I'm still human. But my story and my life venture would be kind of meaningless if I didn't share it with others for a higher purpose.
100%.
And that's why I am so grateful that you've invited me here today, because that's another dot on the pathway to trying to help others and make the world a better place in which to live.
I am so with you right now with everything, because I look at your story, just even as one person hears it, it's that ripple effect that goes out. And that's what this is all about. That's what this world is all about. It's that ripple effect. It's either good or it's bad. Clones. Let's talk about that. I want to use that word, and I want you to explain the cloning process.
As Booster got older, I got depressed. It was incremental. I was losing my Booster. I wouldn't have a demo dog. I wouldn't have a dog that helped me, who once pulled my wheelchair through the airport when I couldn't walk. I wouldn't have a dog to open the refrigerator and bring me water and turn the light switches on and help me. And it was getting depressing. It was incremental. But dogs don't live forever. Neither do humans. But that depression started creeping up again. And I would have loved to have grabbed a bottle of vodka again, but that just wasn't an option any longer. There were better approaches to trying to live life more productively. But it was depressing. In one of my classes at that amazing Bergen University of Canine Studies, Bucks as they called it, Bergen College, I read about cloning. And I fired off an email to Seoul, South Korea, to a Professor Hwang Woo-sok. He was a very celebrated scientist who claimed he had a line of stem cells. Turns out he had fudged a little bit. Other researchers couldn't reproduce his work. And he kind of became, I don't know what you say, but anyway, he was discredited. But he worked his way back up in life, brilliant man, and he won the race against, I think, Texas A&M to clone the dog. The dog is the most difficult animal to clone. There's a one-day window of opportunity, whereas with horses and goats and sheep, it's a little bit easier. I never thought I'd hear back. Well, I did. I got an invitation to go to Seoul, South Korea. I'm like, well, hell yeah. So I jumped on a plane, went to Seoul, walked into this biotech in Seoul, South Korea. Welcome to SOAM Biotech, Davis Hawn, Bergen University of Canine Studies. They treated me like royalty. The professor brought me into a laboratory. He said, look, and I look in a microscope. There's a dog's egg. There's a needle extracting the DNA, a needle implanting the donor DNA. Then he took me in a zoot suit, brought me into the operating room, opened up the surrogate, and put the eggs into the ovaries and said in 63 days, the puppies will be born. Wow. He said, once the eggs are in the ovary, it's a total natural process from then on. And I'm like, oh my God, I wanted to clone Booster so badly. And it wasn't just because I wanted my Booster to live forever. That's not it, because that's never going to happen. But I wanted the unique canine attributes that Booster had. He was so perfect for what he did. And he learned so quickly. Not all dogs are like that. Dogs, I don't know what the failure rate is, 30 or 40% in service dog organizations. They save the male dog's sperm, I think, at guide dogs they've got it samples for 20, 30 years going back, looking for that perfect guide dog. Because you're going to spend $100,000 to train a dog. You might as well start with the best candidate, right? Well, if they could clone the dog, if it wasn't so expensive, you'd have the perfect candidate. Ceasefire. Well, anyway, I didn't have $100,000. That when the Princess of Dubai had cloned her dog, well, I wasn't any notable. Anyway, it was sad and like Tantalus, whatever. 4 months later, I get an email. Professor Wang, he see you love the dog. You travel the world, you help people. He loved the cow as a boy. And he offered to do it at cost, at a discount that was incredibly philanthropic. So I sent a part of my booster to Korea. They cloned him. There were 8 eggs put into one surrogate, 10 into the other. They do it a little bit more efficiently now. But anyway, when I got there, they said, Mr. Hawn, we have something to tell you. I'm like, oh gosh, here it goes. All of the cloned puppies are brought into this world by C-section. It's a $100,000 bill in that dog's stomach. They don't want to lose it. Bonnie suggested that they should do a natural birth for the clones because the puppies needed the stress of the birthing process. They were going to be encountering stress for the rest of their life. So my dogs, unlike all the other, my pups, were born naturally. Kind of cool. So I went, they picked me up, brought me to the laboratory. I wanted to be there for the birthing. Mr. Dave, the dog went into labor last night. We have something to tell you. Well, what is that? Well, Mr. Dave, we sent you a sonogram, fetal heartbeat, but we made a mistake. We should have taken another one. I'm ready for him to tell me that the puppies died. Well, Mr. Dave, there was a second fetal heartbeat behind that one. So, Mr. Dave, you have 2 new boosters. I didn't know what to think. I don't really need 2 dogs. But when I thought about being able to compare the clone to the original and the clone to the clone, oh my gosh, what a fantastic, unique opportunity, especially for someone that values education and canines to boot. So they were born. And I have to tell you that Booster got his name from stealing a toy from a pet store. He was a booster. He was a thief. But I boosted his cells, right? I stole them from him, sent them to Korea, and I got busted for it. And what I mean by that is, I can't believe you cloned your dog, you jerk, when you could adopt a dog from a shelter. How selfish are you? Oh, mister, you're trying to play God. It's not natural. And, I try to explain to people, look, I just want another glorious gift that God gave me. I want another copy of God's gift. I don't want longer legs or bluer eyes. I just want another copy of that unique creature with those attributes. So I'm not really the demon that you think that I am. And it's not just because I miss my fluffy puppy dog. No, it's I need a dog in my life as a service dog. They have to have certain attributes, and this is my best chance at getting that. And so I'll tell you, my own sister, and one of my nieces, before she got married, there was a party. And I told people I cloned my dog. One man said, boy, he wished he had cloned his dog. My sister, and then I told somebody I was in the Al-Anon program. My sister called me the following day. I can't believe what you did at that party. What did I do? I didn't drink. I don't smoke. I didn't cuss. You told people you cloned your dog. Do you know how embarrassing that is to the family? No, I really don't. I mean, you're a banker, you count money. I kind of think that's embarrassing. But, this is family rivalry, right? I work with dogs out in a sunny day in a field, and you sit in a bank and count money. I said, and you know what? That dog bailed me out at the lowest ebb of my life. In 2008, when the banks collapsed, taxpayers bailed you all out. A dog bailed me out, okay? And as far as the Al-Anon program, you're not supposed to talk about that. That's supposed to be secret. No, excuse me. You should hope everybody has a 12-step help themselves program in this life. What's said in meetings is confidential, but not that program exists. Programs like Al-Anon, for those who have an addict in their life, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, those are programs that can only lead to betterment. There is no secret there. And I've learned you're only as sick as the secrets you keep. So that secret, if that's a secret, it's out the box, because I want to share that with everybody. And another saying I heard that I love, if you let go of the past, it'll let go of you. Boy, is that 100% correct in my life. But again, that window of opportunity that was life-transforming was in the form of a little yellow Labrador puppy. I have often said that God gave preachers a Bible. He gave me a dog. And that is just the way it is. I accept it. I don't question it. I value it. And I'm grateful for it.
I want to go back to your cloning. How have you moved through this world on the negative?
First of all, that sister, that's different. That is different. However, and I've told her, if the shoe was on the other foot and you came within 48 hours of death and the dog was inspirational and I have my sister because she has a dog, I wouldn't condemn anything. I would say, wow, I don't maybe believe in this, but I'm so glad that you do, and that changed your life. And brother, I'm glad you're still around. That would be the way I would handle it. But, everybody's different. There's always going to be naysayers and yay-sayers, and I get it, and really this is no different. And a lot of it's due to ignorance. And ignorance is not the same word as stupid. Ignorance is a lack of knowledge, your ignorance. I had to go to college at age 52 to get the education I have, specifically canine related. Those who make those comments don't have the benefit of that education.
What happens when you come across people that are, hey, we're dog shelter lovers, and you should grab a dog from a shelter and train it?
Bonnie Bergen, who invented service dogs, originally she did just that. And she was getting ready to graduate her first service dog to the disabled person in the wheelchair. And just as that was about to happen, a delivery truck drove up. Guy gets out with a baseball cap and glasses on. I think he had a beard. That dog tore off across the parking lot and went after the guy. She couldn't believe it. And as she says, dogs have baggage. We have baggage, emotional. It's better to start when the pages are blank, as she says. Program it. If you give a teenager an iPod with opera, they're not going to like it. It isn't going to work. Conversely, you give a retired person iPod program with rap music, they're not going to like it. You program what goes into that puppy's brain.
So you're saying puppies are really the beginning of that service. And I know that we've been connected to other programs here in Wimberley that they do start with the puppies, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, now, can you use a shelter dog? Sure. But there's a liability attached there to that dog's past.
We don't know those pasts most of the
correct.
time.
Puppy raisers that have guidelines and introduce them to other dogs and pets and beards and caps, you're more likely to graduate the dog. Because there's still a failure rate when you do everything right. Even as a puppy, it can approach 40%. It's a science. You're going to spend $50,000 to train a puppy, over $100,000 to train a guide dog. Do you really want to throw those bucks out the window? No. So I'm sure you could take a shelter dog and make a great service dog, but the odds are not the same. I look at folks that are naysayers and say, I hear what you're saying, but for me, this is what it is, and this is why I did what I did, and there's a science to it, and I know you don't understand it, but I appreciate where you're coming from, but I just ask that you afford me the same opportunity and appreciate where I'm coming from. You might have a need to help an abandoned dog, and that is glorious. My need is a little bit different, and I need a specific type of dog and a certain kind of help in my life.
Where are your clone dogs? How many do you have?
I have 2.5.
2.5. What is the other half? Okay.
So that opens another door. So Booster had a girlfriend.
Oh.
Her name was Puffy, a little white, like British Lab, kind of short and chunky. Wonderful dog. They're now cloning dogs in the U.S., mm-hmm. and I decided to have her clone. When I put her down, gosh, was it sad, but we saved her cells. They cloned. I named that puppy Puffers, and I named her Puffers Thule. Hawn. You see, my oncologist in Gulfport, Mississippi, Dr. Pamela Thule, she saved my life. And I sent her a card one day. Dr. Thule, my life began again when you rescued me from the abyss with 48 hours to live. And she knew all about my dog, Booster. I said, look, I want to just keep me alive. I want to live long enough to write my book, Dr. Thule. And obviously, she accomplished that and a lot more. And I said, look, Booster had a girlfriend, and her name was Puffy, and she had a puppy, and I named her in your honor, Puffers Thule Hawn. And I want you to know that Puffy was the most amazing, loyal, smart, dedicated dog. She was just like you, Dr. Thule. So she came into heat. She's 3 years old now, last summer. And I want to say that Boosted and Busted were born on 9/11. Boosted, Busted, 9/11. I don't believe in coincidences. I think God planned that. So anyway, Puffers was due to have 7 puppies. I had her artificially inseminated with Busted's goods. The x-rays revealed 7. She was due on September 12th last summer. She went into labor a day early. She delivered on 9/11. But there were only 6 puppies. I'm like, huh? The next day I went to the whelping box and there were 7. I said, I must have miscounted, right? It's kind of hard to count to 6 at my age. So I went back and I looked at the photo in my cell phone and there were indeed only 6. 1 dropped out and was born healthy a day later. So to me, again, that's a spiritual context. And it's like God was saying, you know, Dave, this is your future service dog. And they were due on the 12th. I moved it up a day because it's another 9/11 event in your life, Dave. But I let one be born on the 12th to remind you what should have been, if not for my divine intervention. And I will tell you that the largest puppy in the litter was golden yellow, just like his dad, Busted and Booster. And I kept that puppy. I named him Bale. You see, I got busted in Korea, and it took me 8 years, but I finally made Bale.
You are amazing, Davis. Let's talk about your book.
Oh, the book is a result of 10 years. It's 366 pages. I could write a book about writing a book. And there are photos, 199 photos throughout the world. Talks about exactly what I was going through in my life with my alcohol addict and my crack addict, and Booster coming into my life, how that happened, the transformation that took place, and then how I ended up going to the Bahamas. And I spent 8 years working with them to get a national disability law passed. And I was on live television, radio, went into classrooms. I bum rushed Bahamas airplane one time with the dog. We don't allow dogs in cabin. Sir, you'd kick a blind man out of your plane? Well, you're not blind. No, but there's times I can't walk. The dog helps me. So the captain said, I'm going to fly you, but send me some backup. So when I'm questioned, I said, sure. And I did. When it came to getting into Cuba with the dog, we didn't fly there. Bahamas Air did. I wrote the captain. He remembered me, so we would be delighted to get you and Booster into Havana. We did. I sent him a thank you. And he said, Mr. Hawn, because of you and Booster, we've amended our operations manual at Bahamas Air to allow service dogs on all of our flights from here on in. Oh, wow. Big, full story on the newspaper, right? It was great. That was life-changing. And I've got to tell you, there's so many stories like that. And visiting the children with AIDS in Thailand and cancer in Mexico, it's really amazing. And I will tell you that the clones, Boosted, and I were invited to a disability conference in Tepic, Mexico. And I picked up a basket, like an Easter basket with the wicker handle, and I put flowers in it. The mayor introduced me at the disability conference, DEEF for the disabled, and Boosted picked up the basket of flowers, and he walked across the stage and put it in that mayor's hand. And I found out that she has 5 dogs. And I said, you know what? You've just elected the first female mayor. And I got to tell you that if you love an animal, you put their needs above your own. It's automatically pre-qualifying as a great person. I've just learned that the lady you have elected, your mayor, has 5 dogs. You've probably just elected the most loving, caring person that your city will have ever known. And she didn't pay me 1 peso to say that, by the way.
That's good.
So the things just kept going and going and going.
And this is all in the book.
It's all in the book.
The book is called
My Booster. And if you happen to hablar español, it's Mi Perro Booster. You will see the stories, the video. Me, bald, 3-inch hole in my head. Booster, bald, 3-inch hole in his head. Talk about a symbiotic relationship. But guys, if you'll contact me, I will arrange to get a book to you at almost cost. I will autograph it. And guess what? Booster's going to autograph it too. Now, how is that possible? Dogs pass quite often. They take a paw print impression in plaster. So I have this round plaster imprint with his name Booster. I made an etching of it. I sent it to a company in Michigan, and they turned it into a stamper, ink stamper.
Aww.
So I will stamp the book that is Booster's autograph in conjunction with mine, and I will make sure that you get it. And just so that you know, there's no real money to be made, at least in my life, off of a book. But whatever proceeds do come in, get donated to Bergen College of Canine Studies to fund scholarships for students seeking to change the world through utilizing the canine-human bond. And that's Bonnie's vision, and I totally subscribe to it. So that will go to fund scholarships.
That's beautiful. Can you give your email address too for people?
Sure. Booster, the service dog, at yahoo.com.
There you go. And the website again is boostertheservicedog.com. Davis, Hawn, thank you so much for being here. My heart is full, and I hope that this connects to so many people. And thank you so much for spending some time with us. We appreciate you.
Well, I would say that the honor is all mine. El gusto es mío. And I would say ciao, but instead I'm going to tell people Labrador Retriever. Leave it at that.
Thank you for listening to Open the Eye. To be a guest on the show, go to opentheye.com, or you can email at opentheye13@gmail.com. We appreciate you.